the burn of $1 billion of Hyperliquid hype is coming. I talk about that in just a moment. We're also going to cover a lot of other things today. We'll talk about the hard fork on the Gnosis chain. We'll talk about Visa, about stablecoins, about XRP, a lot of different news. Let's start with crypto prices. We have Bitcoin at $87,000 today. Ethereum at almost $3,000. We also had a statement today from a potential future head of the Fed, Chris Waller, who thinks rates still need to be cut another 0.5% to 1%. Chris Waller, if you look at Polymarket, is currently ranked second among the most likely candidates to lead the next Fed. In the first place, you have Kevin Hassett, whom Donald Trump has clearly mentioned as a possible choice to head the Fed. I told you we were going to talk about Hyperliquid. There was an announcement made by the Hyperliquid Foundation. They said that they're going to submit a governance proposal. They submitted, in fact, to vote to formally approve that all the funds Hyperliquid has bought back recently, you know, their buyback system, well, all these funds will be burned. About 97% to 99% of the revenue generated by Hyperliquid is used to buy back the Hype token, and those tokens are sent to what they call the assistance fund. What they're saying is that they want validators to vote and explicitly agree to never put this Hype token in circulation again. Up until now, when I talk about Hyperliquid in my videos and when I talk about buyback, I knew that there was massive buyback happening, but it's true that we never really talked about a burn. And personally, I thought that this fund was not actually a burn fund, but concretely what the Hyperliquid Foundation is saying is that these funds are held on this address. You can see it here. This public address is in fact already a burn address. There is no private key associated with it. It's not possible to have a private key for this type of address. As you know, there are many burn addresses like this, and this one is clearly a burn address. So they're saying that in a way the funds were already burned, but now they want to formalize this, like a kind of an agreement between validators to officially confirm that these funds will never be unlocked again. My personal view is that this is still largely marketing. It's more about clarifying something that was already in place, namely that these funds could not be moved by the Hyperliquid Foundation or validators in any way. And now they're saying, okay, we won't release these funds later. But yeah, let's be honest, with the hard fork, you can technically always release these funds that are sitting on an address. So in practice, it doesn't really change much. That's why I personally see this more from more like marketing or communication news made by the Hyperliquid Foundation. That said, it's still a good thing, and especially from a messaging perspective. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that myself. So I think a lot of people didn't know that. So it's good to clarify and to clearly state that more than $1 billion are going to be burned forever. $1 billion of Hype token. So yeah, now when we talk about the Hype buyback, it's really a buyback and burn. By the way, the Hype token has dropped lately. We are around $26 compared to the height back in September. It was $58. That's pretty big drop. For people who want exposure to Hyperliquid and were waiting for a better entry point, well, here it is. There's currently an opportunity right now. You should also know that there is competition against Hyperliquid. The competition is increasing. From what I'm seeing, most of the projects competing with Hyperliquid, Lighter, Aster, and Paradex, for instance, are basically apps where people are mainly farming the airdrops. There are a lot of airdrops coming. So what we often see with airdrops is that a lot of the volume disappears very quickly once the airdrops happen. And in my opinion, that's just not sustainable in the long run. What's happening on Hyperliquid is completely different. It's something that's built over time, and honestly, we have no idea. You have no idea how many projects are currently being built on Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid is really becoming a core trading infrastructure. It's already being used by MetaMask, Phantom, and a lot of other projects. You've got tons of teams building on Hyperliquid, DAOs building on Hyperliquid, even centralized exchange building on Hyperliquid. So yeah. Hyperliquid I believe it's a good project. It's fully permissionless trading interface. It works extremely fast. Fees are very low, and all of the fees are used for buybacks and burn of the Hype token. So yeah, there's something genuinely impressive and interesting going on here, with a very direct link between the success of the Hype token and the success of the Hyperliquid platform itself. If the Hyperliquid platform succeed, then there will be a rise in the token price, and that link is hard-coded directly into the smart contracts. Tokens buyback here are very different from what we see on Aave, and I'll come back to that in a second. On Aave, the Aave token buyback depends on governance decision. Here it's really baked into the system. It's decided, it's automatic. And honestly, that's pretty nice to see what's happening with Hyperliquid, and a lot of projects should take notice of that. By the way, take a look at this. There's a Cantor Fitzgerald who did an analysis of Hyperliquid and the entities that accumulate Hype token, the DATs, and they published a really interesting analysis where they say that in their views, in a 10-year horizon, Hyperliquid, the market cap could reach $200 billion. And when you think about it, that's basically bring us back to something like the highs of Solana's market cap. So for them, Hyperliquid is kind of Solana of the cycle. And honestly, I personally don't have any major issues with Hyperliquid. I like this project. I know there's a lot of token unlocks that have started, a lot of inflation. And yes, there's plenty of things that are not perfect, but if you're investing in Hyperliquid, you really need to look at it, to look at the fully diluted valuation at the FDV. And right now, it's around $16 billion. So basically, you're buying a token that's already valued at $16 billion. Regardless of the big inflation, that's still coming. If you truly believe in long term that this project will reach $200 billion market cap, then yeah, it's a good investment. I'm not talking about playing cycles here, buying the bottom, selling the top. If you have a long view, then yeah, I believe it's a good project. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about Hyperliquid. Now let's talk about Aave. On the other hand, we have Aave, where there's an issue that I've been talking about for a few days now, with Aave Labs diverting part of the revenues generated through the Aave website. And now there's a new proposal that has been submitted by BGD Labs, which is another entity involved in the Aave's development. The proposal is supported by the Aave-chan initiative and more broadly the Aave community. The goal is to regain control over the Aave.com domain name, the intellectual property, the brand, and everything associated with Aave brand. And that's actually interesting because it could change quite a lot of things. The goal here is to create a structure. We don't know yet exactly what kind of structure. It could be a foundation, for instance, or another entity that would be controlled by the DAO, and that would hold control over all of this, all the info, all the brand, all the IP, and especially the domain name, Aave.com. The goal is to prevent Aave Labs from having too much control over Aave. And let's be clear, X, all the social network, all of that is currently controlled by Aave Labs, and more importantly, the website Aave.com is controlled by Aave Labs. So we'll see if this goes through. We'll see how Aave Labs navigate this situation, what they decide to do, because they can vote also, and they have a lot of tokens. So yeah, for now it's under review. It's being studied, and yeah, I think it would be a very good thing for the Aave token if this proposal passes. I really believe it would help clarify the future of Aave and avoid major issues, because the other option will be to create a new domain name, change the name of the protocol, and so on, but I think that will destroy a lot of value. Next, let's talk about Gnosis blockchain, which is preparing a hard fork. Do you know what they want to do this hard fork? Is to recover funds from the Balancer hack. Balancer suffered a very large hack some time ago, close to $200 million. And around $10 million of that was on Gnosis, more precisely $9.4 million. Gnosis was able to do a soft fork and freeze the funds in time, but to actually return the funds to users, they need to do a hard fork. And now they're preparing to do that hard fork on December 22. But the community is still split. It splits because people are asking, why should we do a hard fork to return funds? And who gets to decide when funds should be returned and when they should be frozen? That's really not in the original philosophy of blockchains. There have been precedents in the past. We can mention the DAO hack in 2015, I guess. I don't remember the exact date, but it was on Ethereum. It was extremely controversial and led to the creation of the Ethereum Classic. But today, this kind of thing is no longer really imaginable on the biggest blockchains. That said, on Gnosis, those $9.5 million represent 7% of Gnosis total TVL, which is around $142 million. So people are saying for 7% 5% of TVL. Why not? Just to give you a sense of scale, a similar hack on Ethereum would represent something like $3 or $4 billion, 7% of 68 billion in TVL. On Ethereum, the largest hack we've had recently was related to Safe with the Bybit hack, where 1.4 billion was stolen, mostly in ETH. There was no rollback, no hard fork, nothing like that, but Gnosis want to do this, and that kind of show the limits of blockchain immutability if you can actually go back and change things. You've got the whole code is law philosophy, but this opens up, a real debate. Personally, I think some small blockchains will do this because they have the ability to do it, but on Ethereum, I don't think it will ever happen. On Solana, I don't think also it will happen, but that said, if a protocol that's absolutely massive were to get hacked, for example, Lido in Ethereum, where 20 or 30 billion of TVL were hacked, which is an enormous amount, then I think it could eventually happen. The pressure would be strong to do it. But in the case of Gnosis, I don't think there's really that kind of pressure now for $9 million. Anyway, as always, what's happening in decentralized finance is really fascinating. So another news, let's talk about Visa. Visa just launched a new offer with US banks to handle USDC settlements, basically USDC for credit card payments. Settlement is how it works is when you pay with a credit card or a debit card, there are exchanges that happen periodically, once a day, sometimes twice a day between banks. They net out all the payment that happened between one bank and another, and then they settle the balances. Right now, that process only happens 5 days a week. What Visa is that thanks to blockchains, they'll be able to do this every day of the week and even multiple times per day. In the US, this is going to be done with banks using Solana. Solana is the blockchain that was chosen. So yeah, that's clearly positive for Solana. That said, it's important to remember that Visa stablecoin platform is actually integrated with several blockchains, Solana, Ethereum, Avalanche, and even Stellar. So Visa is multi-blockchain, but in this specific case with US banks, Solana is the one that was selected. So again, good news for Solana. They also mentioned that they're testing Arc as well. Visa is working with Circle's Arc blockchain to integrate it and offer other types of services, or the same type of services. So overall, this is clearly positive news for Solana, for Arc also. Then we move on to XRP. XRP ETFs had just surpassed $1 billion in assets under management after only a few weeks. That's honestly pretty successful launch for XRP. $1 billion in about a month. That's impressive. There was clearly strong demand for this token. Now we'll see how far it can go, but credit where credit is due. We've seen a few crypto altcoins perform really well through ETFs. Recently, Solana and XRP stood out. There were other launches as well, but these are the ones that have performed best over the past few weeks. Then there's a study published by the UK Financial Markets Authority, which shows that the number of crypto users in the UK has actually declined over the past year. And that's kind of interesting. We went from 12% to 8%. So quite a lot of people have exited crypto. They no longer hold any cryptocurrencies. The most widely held crypto is Bitcoin, with about 70% of holders owning Bitcoin and around 35% holding Ether. This is actually the first time I've seen such a precise study showing clearly that significant number of people are no longer in crypto 1 year later. And honestly, I think we can all feel it. You probably noticed around you as well, there's less interest in crypto overall. Now, this data is specific to the UK. We don't have numbers for other companies, but it's still extremely interesting to see this kind of trend. And what's clearly happening right now is that it's not retail that's driving the market, it's institutions. We see it with ETFs, with companies buying BTC and ETH, Strategy, Bitmine for ETH, and the same thing is happening on Solana, Hyperliquid, and several other blockchains. But retail is still not here. Actually, it's the opposite. Fewer and fewer people are interested in cryptocurrency. I hope that changes. I really hope we reach a point where 40 to 50% of the adult population owns crypto, even more, but we're not there yet. And this also shows you that there's still a huge amount of market share to capture and a lot of growth potential for cryptocurrencies. That's why we can still imagine a 10x for the crypto market as a whole over the coming years if we manage to significantly increase the percentage of the population that owns crypto. That's what I wanted to share with you today about the latest crypto news. I hope you enjoyed the content. Don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next one. All right, take care. Bye.